Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to a Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Lauren St. George. She's a coach and a consultant. She helps companies and individuals navigate change, overcome big, hairy challenges, and imagine truly creative solutions. Lauren is the founder of What's Next, a one-of-a-kind, highly engaging program that helps people figure out their best next chapter. Often, this need for change is triggered by a major life event or feeling stuck and unsure on what to do next. At the heart of it, we are all looking to live a more fulfilling life, and Lauren has helped hundreds of people find their lives or find theirs. Thanks so much for being on the Little Less Fear podcast, Lauren. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's great to meet you too.
Thank you so much. So tell us about your journey, Lauren. What got you to where you are at today, doing what you're doing today, and inspiring the hundreds of people that you've been inspiring?
Well, I mean, I think it's ultimately a culmination of life until this point in time. While I help people come up with plans on what they want to do next, I think I myself have kind of bounced around a little bit and found myself here. But I started to years ago. I had a creative agency. I've done a lot of work in branding and storytelling, and we found a niche working with innovation teams. And through that, I was introduced to design thinking and methodologies that really help you to do disruptive thinking. And it led me to getting a master's degree in creativity, which a lot of people think of creativity as the ability to draw or to paint. But really, creativity is the ability to solve challenges, to come up with new and novel ideas. And so my master's was in that. And in the process of learning the tools and methodologies, I was working with some small businesses. I was working with individuals using the same methods. And I found that they worked equally well for both groups. I then went into the business world and used those methods and ran, coached and consulted with a lot of businesses. But then it kind of dawned on me that I could be using those to help people in their individual lives in a far more powerful way. I mean, I love working with businesses, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes the fruits of your labor can take months or years before you see things coming, into alignment. Products can take a long time to get onto shelves and those sorts of things. But with people, I can see shifts happening much faster. And so it took my mom making the statement after she'd retired early, saying, I wish I had retired, spent more time thinking about what I was retiring to than what I was retiring from, for it all to kind of come together and for me to say.
That's really powerful to put in those words. Say that again. That was incredible. It took her some time to realize what she was retiring from rather than retiring to. Is that what you said?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we all spend a fair amount of our time thinking more about the past than we do the future, and planning for the future. So, yeah, so that's where What's Next came from, was really using all that I've learned in the business world, but bringing it to people to really disrupt their thinking and to help them come up with really what their next chapter should look like.
I love how you said that, disruptive thinking. Could you elaborate a little more on what you mean by disruptive thinking?
Sure. I think if we keep asking ourselves the same question, we're going to keep getting the same answer.
Right.
And if we're asking the wrong question, then we're getting the wrong answers.
True.
So disruptive thinking is really, how do we come at a challenge from different ways? How do we use different parts of our brain? How do we use different sources of inspiration to really disrupt the thinking, to come up with something that's new and novel, and really, solve a challenge in a way that really serves us.
And was that the basis of What's Next?
It is. I mean, it's really helping people go from feeling stuck and unsure of what they want to do next to really getting some clarity and a concrete plan to make it happen. Because I really believe people need to leave my program with something tangible in hand that they can go and do. so yeah, that methodology and that way of disrupting thinking is kind of the foundation of what I do. So it's not a typical program. The way we approach things is not typical. And I think people have a lot of fun in figuring out, what they want to do next.
How did you come to create such an incredible program? Was this something that you came up with yourself, or did you have a group of people, or was it your own life experience?
It's come from my training. It's come from creating something and then, piloting it, trying it out,
Yeah,
really, seeing what worked. I think you have to, in what I do in creativity, you take on more of an innovation mindset, right? So you
right.
are trying things out, you're learning from what you're doing, you're iterating on that, and you're trying to build the best thing possible. So, I think I've gotten it to a really good place, but that doesn't mean that I won't play with some things or change some things out, because I want to keep making it as good as it can be. And learning as I go from the people that come through the program, from their experiences, from what they're getting out of it. And if I'm not serving them to the best of my ability, then I need to keep, iterating on what I've created.
I love that, Lauren, because I love what you said right now, the innovation mindset and the whole creativity part. Because a lot of people, I feel that I've often heard, well, I'm not the creative type, or I'm not, just as you said earlier, a lot of people will think that creativity means you're an artist of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what I would have thought of years ago as well. And just the fact that we all have the ability to be creative in our own way, depending on how we want to mold our life, is a pretty incredible idea. I love that.
We are all creative. We're all born creative.
Yeah,
Is a natural skill we all have.
right.
But like a muscle, it's something that you can strengthen. So, you're using creativity when you open the refrigerator tonight and you try to
Yeah,
figure out what you're cooking for dinner. That's what we consider like little c creativity, but it is.
right.
You're
It
looking at
is.
those ingredients and you go, well, oh shoot, what am I going to make? And you may put something together that you've never cooked before. That's creativity.
Right.
And so, that's the everyday circumstances of creativity. Now there's everyday things we can do to just build creativity. Like, tonight, brush your teeth with the other hand, take a different route to work or to the supermarket. Doing those sorts of things gets your brain thinking in new ways. And those are small, simple things you can do.
I noticed on your bio here, I was gonna actually ask you some questions. I'd like to know the 5 simple questions you must answer to transform your life. Now, before we answer these questions, are these questions that came after the innovation part, the trial and error, and trying to figure things out, or is this something that happened right from the beginning of creating what's next?
Um, these aren't exactly the questions we ask in the program, but they're connected and close enough.
Okay.
I think these are things that are again follow a very sort of logical way of solving a challenge.
Mhm.
And while they're simple questions, they're not easy to answer because it requires you being vulnerable and honest with yourself when you do them. So uh, I think they follow a similar pattern to um, getting from a place of not being sure of what you want to do to being, having more of an understanding and a plan. Happy to share them with you if you
Yes,
like.
please. What are those questions? Those simple
Okay,
questions.
so the first question is, where do I want to be 3 years from now? And the reason why I say 3 years is because we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, and we tend to underestimate what we can accomplish in 3 years. So,
That's true.
3 years gives us some time to accomplish things because we have busy lives, right? So as
Right.
you're trying to make change happen or work towards a new goal, I think you need to give yourself the time to do that. So, thinking
Yeah,
enough
there's
in the
definitely,
future.
it feels less like there's less pressure when you're giving 3 years.
Exactly. There's that too. And it gives you time for trial and error because
That's so true.
life happens. We try some things out and
Right.
we're like, maybe that's not it. So give
Exactly.
yourself some time. Yeah. The next question is, why is this important to me?
That's a
And
very
with
important question.
yeah, it's a very important question. It's to me, it's the most important question because if you
Mhm.
don't understand your why of why you're doing something, um, you don't have the motivation that you need to get there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's at the heart. You can say what I want to do. You could do the how, the steps of how I'm going to get there. But if you don't have your why, that's critical.
That's your purpose.
It is. The next is, what are the obstacles in my way?
What obstacles are in my way?
What obstacles are in my way? What's going to stop me from getting to that place that I want to be 3 years from now? Now, the trick there is to write that exhaustive list, but then to actually segment out those things, because you're going to have things that are small obstacles. You're going to have things that are more medium-sized, meaty obstacles, and you're going to have some huge ones. And you want to look at those buckets, and you're going to go, well, what are the most important things within each of those that I need to solve in order to move forward? Because you're not going to be able to attack all of them. Or what are the most important ones? And there may be ones that you can't move, so that you're going to figure out how you got to get around them. Yeah. Those are the big boulders in your way.
I'm sure once you actually start writing it down, it's kind of like it stays in the back of your head, and the universe finds its ways to make it all work out for you.
It absolutely does. I think it opens your mind to opportunities. You're going to see things that you didn't see before. Exactly. It's similar to when you decide you're going to buy a car. You've decided on the make and model, and now all of a sudden everyone's driving one on the road. Right. It's not that anything changed. It's just you're now open to seeing those things. So I think if you start to not only think about the obstacles, but the next question is, how am I going to overcome those obstacles? And that's where you're opening your mind to finding solutions to those obstacles. Now, the interesting thing about our brain is it doesn't like unanswered questions. So your subconscious is going to continue to work on answering that question while you're going.
Until you go to sleep.
But that spark of inspiration that you might get when you're in the shower, it's not that it just came out of nowhere. Your subconscious has been working on it. So, you start to think about what are the ways that you can overcome those obstacles. And again, you can decide, am I going to tackle the small ones first because it's kind of low hanging fruit and I can get some of that out of the way, or do I want to attack the big, hairy, scary ones? Because I'll feel more accomplished if I solve those ones first.
And what's the fifth question?
How do I stay motivated?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. It is. And for that we can talk tools, because motivation's a hard one.
It is.
Well, because I think one thing is to understand that depending on what your goal is, motivation may not be the thing that comes first. Action may very well have to be the thing that comes first, which means forcing yourself to do something you don't necessarily want to do. So it's far easier to sit on the couch and binge watch something while eating ice cream than to get up and go to the gym. And we all have experienced that in our lives. But that we need to do the action. We need to get off the couch and go for a walk. We need to go do something to start to build up momentum. And once you start doing it, you feel better, and then you get motivated, and then you do more action. It becomes this kind of cyclical thing. So how do you force yourself to get off the couch? Well, you do a variety of things. One is the very first thing you do is you find something that's going to take you less than 2 minutes to accomplish. It might be Google search where the closest gym is. That's it. You just know where it is. Yeah. Because the next day it might be go online and get membership.
So literally baby steps.
Baby steps. Simple steps. If I want to learn yoga, well, maybe I have to go buy a yoga mat first. But what are the small things you can do? Because what you want to do is start to see some momentum, and you want to be able to follow through on what you say you're going to do, because you want to build trust with yourself. Because if you set yourself up for a goal, you set yourself up for a goal and you don't make it, or you give up along the way, you learn to not trust yourself. So I want to do that. I'm not going to follow through, so why even bother?
Right. That's incredible. So my mind's going a million miles a minute right now. I'm just thinking all kinds of things here. But the first thing that I wanted to ask you is, what is the greatest challenge that you have with your clients? out of these five, or just in general, what is the greatest challenge that you feel that you get out of the majority of your clients?
Mindset.
The mindset.
Mindset is the biggest one.
Meaning changing their mindset or sticking to a specific mindset?
Overcoming fear. Overcoming fear tends to be the
goodness.
biggest one.
Yeah.
Right? Because moving out of your comfort zone requires going into your fear zone in order to move through and to there's a framework I like, which is comfort zone, fear, learning, and growth. So you have to move through those in order to get to that growth. And so we can stay on the couch.
What were those zones again, Lauren? You said comfort zone,
fear, learning, and then growth.
So basically getting people out of their comfort zone to face their fears and then learn from the fear, and then from there, that's where the growth happens. And
that's where the growth happens.
Then you can start going into your questions. I'm assuming your 5 questions, your guidelines. So what are people's greatest fears that you're noticing, or that you have noticed, that you've come across?
I mean, the ones that I tend to find are, there's a fear of failure. It's a big one. And that comes from a variety of places. It could be that we tried things as children and we failed and we were embarrassed, or someone made fun of us. We've taken that forward with us. So we're less likely to try new things, to put ourselves out there, because we're scared of what may come back.
So false beliefs.
False beliefs. We've been trained into it through school. The school system has.
Yeah.
We're expected to get the right answer the first time. So we don't have that innovation mindset of, let me try, let me iterate, let me keep going, and I'll get there. I mean, most products that are on the shelf didn't get there with the first iteration. And exactly. Dyson talks about the 500 prototypes they had before it got out there, and we somehow expect ourselves to get it right the first time. So that fear of failure is a big one. Fear of change is a big one. Our brains are designed to help keep us safe. And when we try to break out of that comfort zone, we're breaking the patterns, we're breaking the comfort, and we're breaking out of that sort of autopilot way of living. And our brain goes, "Ooh, no, that's scary." Right. So we enter this kind of fight or flight mode where we're not being chased by woolly mammoths anymore, but ideas and change and new things can seem threatening. So when you hear that voice in your head going, "Oh, that's I can't do that," or "That's not a good idea," or that's usually your brain trying to protect you from doing something that it perceives as being, scary.
So how can we make change comfortable?
I don't think you can. I think you can do things to try and soften it, maybe. I think having a plan helps you to at least take it step by step. I think understanding your why so that you keep your motivation up helps you to keep pushing forward. Because I think if you don't want it badly enough, you're not going to do it. So I think understanding your why is fundamental to that. But sometimes we just got to get uncomfortable. Yeah, right. And that's where the growth happens, right? It's getting out of that comfort zone.
I find that, I guess, sometimes the biggest fear is like actually taking that very first minute step. And it's like sometimes I will sit on something for a couple days. Like, why am I taking so long? Why not just do this? Why not just send that email? Why not just record that video? And I can imagine this is true for many people. What can help for people to break that fear of the very first step, even if it's a baby step?
It could be things like making sure you have the right support group around you. Make you've got your people that you confide in, that they can hold you up, right, when you're afraid of taking that first step. I think accountability, if you put it out there, again, you're building trust with yourself. I'm going to follow through. I'm putting it out there into the world that this is the thing I'm going to do. Now, I think you need to be careful on who you're telling, because again, want people to kill an idea before you get it out of the gates. But accountability in some way, shape, or form, I think helps with that. And like I said, I think finding the smallest, easiest step that you can take, and then reward yourself for taking it. Reward yourself along the way as you're working towards your goal, and don't back off of that. Set that goal, that first small step, the next small step, and reward yourself. And then the final one is just have compassion, I think, because we are going to have setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't going to get it right the first time. We are going to have days where we don't want to, get off the couch. Like, have compassion for yourself when you do have a setback, and don't use that setback as a reason to just ditch the whole thing, but to get up and try again.
Before you were talking about having compassion for yourself, you said to reward yourself. What's a good way to reward yourself?
It could be big, it could be small. I mean, I think that's up to every single person. It could be anything from I'm going to go and see a movie to I'm going to get a massage to I'm going to spend time with my family. It's whatever those things are that make you feel good, and that maybe you don't do enough of, that it feels rewarding to do it.
That makes sense. And as far as having compassion for yourself, sometimes I find that that's actually difficult for me. Like, how does one have compassion for themselves? And how do they actually take time to be compassionate for themselves? Is that downtime? Is that reading a book? Is that saying I'm not going to do anything today? Or I understand that I'm feeling overburdened by this? I mean, how do you define that?
It's a great question. I think it comes from loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We often will give compassion to other people, but not ourselves. Right. I saw something online the other day that said, make a list of all the things you love, and at the end of it, it said, "I bet you didn't put yourself on the list."
Wow, that's so powerful.
That is so powerful. That one hit hard for me. Yeah, I think you have to have, if you have compassion for yourself, you have to love yourself, right?
Absolutely. Wow, that's really incredible to think about. So what's the most challenging thing that you find about your program?
The most challenging thing. I think the most challenging, but yet the most fun thing for me is that everyone is different, right? So even though each person is coming in and they may even have a similar challenge, what we're bringing to it is a lifetime of experience and setbacks and just who we are as humans. So even though I'm running a program that has a framework that I run the same every time, or largely the same every time, the variable and the challenging piece is that each human being is different, and what they bring to the conversation is different. So that's the most challenging part for me.
Sounds rewarding as well.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
And it sounds like it would help you as well grow in different ways.
Definitely it has. I mean, the conversations that we have are just as mind opening for me as they are for the people in the group, because again, everyone's coming at it from a different perspective. And that's the beauty of running it as a group program, because people are coming in with different experiences and expertise and skills, and so they can lend that to each other, which makes it a far more enriching experience for everyone.
And what's the average age that you're currently helping? Because I'm wondering, as you're talking about this, I'm also feeling that even teenagers could benefit from programs like this, especially with a cool title like What's Next. I feel like even young kids could be like, hey, I want to know what's next. I want to be with What's Next.
Typically the people that find me tend to be 35 plus. But I've certainly run the program with younger people. I think the youngest so far has been 26. And I've run it all the way up to, I think, 82. So
wow.
we all have these pivotal moments in our life where we wonder what's next. And they often are career-based, or it could be I've just gone through a divorce. I'm an empty nester. I want to think about my retirement and what that looks like. I'm trying to find more fulfillment. Can happen at any point in someone's life. So yeah, I've run it with a wide array of people from various generations.
And I can also imagine you've probably helped people that are grieving as well.
I have some, yeah, not as many. I think because for grief, there is a period of time where you probably need to be spending time with a therapist, right? You need to be talking
True.
about, you need to be talking through the emotional part.
Okay.
But when you're ready to start looking towards the future, of course, yes, of
Yes,
course.
definitely. So most of the things that you're handling here are like divorce, empty nester, retirement, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, a good still, I would say about 50% of it is still career. I mean, because for a lot
Hmm.
of people, financial is a
Right.
major component, right?
It really is.
So, but it's run the gamut over the years.
And what's changed over the years? Like, let's say over the last 5 years, how have people's goals and purpose of life changed compared to how it was when you first started? Because I know that there's constant change going on, either with social media or with new ideas or because of creativity. How have you seen this evolve?
So I did start this program about 2 years ago. So it's relatively new in that side of things. I think, but what I think we have seen is, while we have these pivotal moments in our life,
Sure.
and we all have a variety of them,
Hmm.
we've just obviously had a major global challenge that we've all gone through at the same time with the
Right.
pandemic.
Hmm.
And so the great resignation, and what has come out of that, the time that people sat at home reflecting on life, has definitely, I think, had an impact on wanting to ask that question of what's next.
Oh
And
yeah, it really has.
it has, yeah. So that's definitely, timing wise, I'm probably at the right time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel that you are at the right time, especially because the pandemic, I feel actually allowed people to really go inward and try to and ask these five questions that you have right here. And that's because of the downtime that they had and
Hmm.
probably living true people really looking for their inner true life purpose rather than doing things for other people. I feel that people are expanding to really find their own niche and their own creativity and their own talent.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd agree. We all were faced with something that was ambiguous in terms of when was the end going to come. And it hasn't come. People have, gone back to living their lives, but it's not to say
Yeah,
that the COVID's gone away. But we all were faced with this not knowing of when things would end. When could I go back to living my life again? um and and it does make us reflect on, is this really the way that I would want to be living my life? And with the death toll that we did see,
right.
yeah, I think it was a wake up call for a lot of people in terms of, is this really, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life?
Lauren, so what are ways that people can live a more fulfilling, full of life?
So, when we talk about fulfillment and purpose, a lot of people equate that to what they do for a living. And I think it's far beyond that. So fulfillment, I've heard the framework of, it's a three-legged stool. And certainly if one of those legs is off, the whole thing's out of balance. But I think the first leg of that stool is engagement. Do we feel engaged in something in our life? And that can be
Hmm.
work, but it could be hobbies, it could be a variety of things. But do you have something that you wake up thinking about in the morning that you want to do? That thing that gives you, that sense of flow when you're doing it. Time, you forget about time, and
Right.
you're really engaged in something. The other is self-care. Are we doing things that are for ourselves, or are we giving ourselves the time that we need? And then they could be small things or big things, but are we doing self-care? And the third is, are we giving back in some way? And it doesn't have to mean, am I financially, giving to charities, or am I volunteering, but do you feel like you're giving back in some way? And if you have things that fall into those three areas, you're more likely to feel like you have a fulfilling life than if one of those is off.
And so but you're saying that that's a little different than life purpose.
Oh, purpose and fulfillment and happiness, and we do throw these words around. I
Right.
don't think that people should go out and look for their purpose. I think you look for the things that make you feel happy, which tend to make you, feel fulfilled at some point.
Right.
And then along the way, you're like, wow, that thing that I've been engaged in, or those things that I love doing, actually that's where my purpose lies.
Right.
So I when we have these conversations within my groups, I am reluctant to say go find your purpose to anyone.
Right.
I think your purpose
Makes
kind of
sense.
finds you.
That totally makes sense. So if you have joy when you're doing something and there's happiness and the time is just going by, that's a really clear indicator of what more of what you need to be doing.
Hmm. As long as it's healthy, right? As long as it's not detrimental to you or the
Right.
people around you. Yeah, then I think you're at least, again, you're kind of finding your path. You're on the right track. That these are the things that make that I get joy from, that make me happy, which then will, I think, leads to fulfillment, and fulfillment along the way. You'll say, this is probably my purpose.
That definitely makes sense. And what's next? How long is this a program? Is it a one-time workshop? Is it like a 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 months?
It's a 6 week program.
Okay.
It's pretty intensive. But when do we actually give ourselves permission to really put a concentrated period of time to thinking about
Sure.
ourselves? So yeah, it's 6 weeks. It's definitely, it's a time commitment of, we do 2 calls a week. And then there is some sort of homework outside of that. So it's definitely a commitment for 6 weeks, but it is my commitment to the people that go through the program and are part of a cohort that they're going to leave with something very tangible that's going to really get them on their path to their what's next.
And you do this in person or through Zoom or both?
We did at this point we did remotely. So that allows me to work with people, across right now mostly North America, but that I'm absolutely open to other time zones. We just have to make it work for everyone. But I've done once-off workshops with people from as far as New Zealand to here. But when it's a consistent 6-week program, I try to make that work for everyone. So we do it remotely to allow for time zones. And certainly it was something I had to learn at the beginning of the pandemic, was how to go from in-person workshops to remote. So I think we've got that covered pretty well at this point in terms of the experience that people can go through remotely. But my long-term dream is to do it as a in-person, like 1 week on a beach somewhere.
Nice. Oh
exotic.
My goodness, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, let's have fun. Let's go somewhere fun and do it. So that'll be something for the future.
Oh, I'm sure you'll do that. And it's already there for you, Lauren. You're already there. So the 6-week program, it has 2 calls a week. And what are these calls? Is that what do you have homework? You say you give them homework. And so is there like a video? I mean, what do they follow? What are they supposed to follow every day for 6 weeks?
So we typically do a Monday and a Thursday call. The Monday call sets you up for the week. It's off. We talk about what the focus of the week is, what we're going to come out with at the end of it. We talk about the sort of activities that people will do on their own time, so that everyone's clear on that. I always record those calls and make them available to people if they were to miss, or certainly for them to go back to. Then typically it's 1 to 2 hours a week of their own time. However, I have had people who've thrown themselves in and spent way more time on certain things than others. So it's really what speaks to you and areas where maybe you want to dig in a little deeper. Our Thursday call is not that people have to be done by Thursday with their homework, but really have started enough that we can have a conversation about the progress you're making. Have you hit any roadblocks? Do we need to talk about mindset things? And an opportunity to share back with the group, because the more you're prepared to share with the group, and that's up to everyone what they share, but the more you are prepared to share with the group, the better they're going to be as a sounding board for you, and the better the ideas are that are going to come out and the people are going to give to you. So Thursday is really about talking about progress and overcoming obstacles, and we do some work on those calls as well. I'm trying to maximize our time together. They're 90 minutes, which I found to be a good period of time. And the groups are small. I usually run them 4 to 7 people, so that it is more intimate. And people come away after 6 weeks with a community that they can tap into anytime they want to, because now you've got a group of people who really know you and can be there as a sounding board anytime you need it.
Are these calls actual phone calls, or are they Zoom calls where the 4 to 7 people? Oh,
The
nice, very
Zoom calls,
nice.
it's important to see each other,
I believe that. Yeah,
as
I
much as
agree
you
with you.
can. Mhm.
And what type of assignments are you giving your clients during the week? These are questions to ask themselves, like a journal that they have to kind of just be working at towards, or
There's a workbook, so there'll be different activities, answering different questions. Yeah, they vary. Um, the first week is really about helping people sort of reacquaint themselves with themselves. Along the way, life has a way of sidetracking us, which is not a bad thing. But we have family commitments, and we have job commitments, and we
right?
have commitments to our loved ones, and friends, and whatever. And we'll take on obligations and things, and we'll forget along the way, I think,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes about the things we're passionate about or that we really care about. So that's the first week, is about really kind of reacquainting yourself with what's important to you, and who you are. What are your values, and
Mm-hmm.
where are your strengths? What are the things you you just don't want to do, right? It's not
Yeah.
we're as we get older, I think it is more about finding the right path and letting some things go. Um, the second week is about getting clarity, on what your big question is. Again, back to, if you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answers.
Wrong
So
answer. Yeah.
we spend a fair amount of time figuring out, what's our why, and what's the big question. And then that's the question we're going to spend the next 4 weeks answering. Week 3 is a big brainstorming. Everyone is helping everyone with ideas. It's a lot of fun. We really push for the big wild ideas, because you can always rein an idea in. It's harder to make it big. So we have a lot of fun with that. From
Mhm.
there, it's about really looking at those ideas that you have, and we go for quantity, so that you can kind of weed through them and see what are the things that maybe you hadn't thought of before. How can things go together? What new thinking does it trigger for you? Because you may think of some other things you hadn't thought of.
True.
And then we go through the process of whittling down those ideas to what really resonates for you, what's connecting to what's important to you, and criteria that we set during week 1. And then week 6 is all about putting the plan together. I have, templates to help people really think through, what are the next steps, immediate next steps that I have to do. What are the things I need to go and work out next? For a lot of people, it could be, I need to go and speak to my financial advisor to see if this actually is viable, or I need to speak to an accountant or a lawyer, because now I've decided I'm starting a business. So now I've got to, I've got to actually speak to someone about that. But we put together the plan that allows people to go and take those next steps.
I love this, Lauren. I wrote down your steps, and as I was writing them down, I was really feeling it being, I mean, you really broke it down to find a good, easy way to get some clarity. It's almost as if just breaking it down weekly the way that you did, as far as what are your values and getting clarity, and then brainstorming. It allows the individual to sit down with themselves and to really give themselves that space to think these things that otherwise they wouldn't be doing on their own. So that's really important. And it's really beautiful the way you've done this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So,
Yeah.
how can our viewers or watchers and our listeners get a hold of your program if they want to be one of your clients? And how can they get a hold of you?
So my website is answerwhatsnext.com. You can get a hold of me through there. You can also start to, you'll be able to sign up for my newsletter if you're interested. That's a weekly newsletter where you can, every week, it's a new area to think about, tips and tools and things, to help people stay motivated and live the life that they want to live. So that's a free resource for anyone who's interested. But yeah, through my website, you can book a call directly with me if you want to learn more, if you want to speak to me in person.
That's amazing. Lauren St. George, thank you for being on A Little Less Fear podcast. I have one more question for you, Lauren. Knowing what you know now, if you can go back to a time when life was a little darker, what would you tell your past self, knowing what you know now, having the tools that you now have?
A little darker. I don't, there's a lyric from Florence, and
And the machine?
the machine, that I really love, which is always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah,
And I think when things get dark, it's recognizing that they're not always going to be dark. Um,
so true.
mhm. So that's in my darker times has kind of helped me through. The other is gratitude. It's not, I think some people think of it as woo woo, but there's more than enough science to prove that gratitude can make you more optimistic. It can make you happier. It can help you really, be more present and able to attack the things that you want to reach those goals. So practicing gratitude has probably been one of the things that has most fundamentally changed my life over the last few years.
I love how you said that. Gratitude helps you become present, which is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm very grateful to have had you here on A Little Less Fear podcast and you sharing your incredible wisdom, light with the world. It was very nice to meet you, Lauren St. George, and I hope you have a blessed day and good luck with your incredible program and all your amazing clients that are benefiting from this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for all the listeners, the viewers, the watchers, and the subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and do so. And please share the story, share this journey, share this podcast with your friends and your family. You can find information on my book, details about my book, on my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will also find my freelance poetry that I write. It's visual poetry with video for businesses. And for social marketing, if you are interested, please send me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. Again, my website is www.alittlelessfear.com. And if you'd like to be on the show, you can also send me an email, or if you have any questions or comments, at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. Feel free to also check out my YouTube channel, also titled A Little Less Fear Podcast, where you will catch all of these episodes on video on YouTube. Thank you all so much. I love you. Thanks for your support. Take care and keep shining on. Rock on. I love you.